So, thanks a lot. You are with us. If you had to name maybe just 2 or 3 key decisions that enabled Estonia to become a digital leader, what would they be?
I would say that if I had to pick, I would say making some things mandatory. The ID card and the X-Road became mandatory, at least for the public sector. Then public-private partnership, which allows to bring fresh ideas into the state services. So the state doesn't have to be responsible for all of the innovation, but through public procurements, you can actually include private companies into building this digital society, and you can share this responsibility. And thirdly, I would say educating people, because the change is scary. And if people don't understand why you're building the systems and how it's benefiting them as well, then they're going to be too afraid to join this movement.
Which digital service is the biggest game changer in Estonia? Or is there anything you cannot imagine to handle on papers anymore?
Everything. Estonians tend to get quite frustrated when they have to deal with the paperwork that comes with, having partners in some other countries. Overall, I would maybe bring out 2 sectors. One is just the private sector, being a business owner, dealing with your paperwork and all of your reportings. This is very important to us because every 10th Estonian owns a business. We're very business-minded, and it's a very normal thing to have your main job and then your company on the side to do other things. So business environment and healthcare. That is something that is relevant to everybody. And I could not imagine having to go to my doctor for a paper-written prescription. I can do everything online in one single portal.
When you look at Slovakia, where do you think we have the room maybe for rapid progress?
I would say that one thing that we share is being a tiny country compared to some others, which makes us more mobile, which makes us very flexible. And that is a very good thing if you're trying to bring change. So use that flexibility and don't be afraid to make new things. And I would say that the other thing that is helpful is being part of the EU, actually. I know that the regulations that come from the EU might seem like a hassle to deal with, but on the flip side of things, this is what gives new developments trustworthiness. Building new things that comply with GDPR, with NIS2, with EIDAS regulations, those things make them relevant. And I think that is something that also supports you.
Well, you are a great inspiration for us, but still, probably, or maybe you have made some mistakes on your journey. Maybe you have learned from. What was the biggest mistake on Estonia's digital journey?
That is a great question. I would say that sometimes mistakes are natural. So in some cases, things go wrong. There has been a lot of talk about EIDs. I can bring you one example from our journey. In 2017, we had something called the EID crisis, where some researchers from Czech Republic found out a potential threat with the chip. Now, nothing really bad happened, but they made this information public, so we had to act really fast. So I would say that mistakes are a natural part that happen on the way. It's just important to be very open and transparent when those things happen. That is how Estonians actually trust their state, because they feel that if something does go wrong, it's not swept under the rug.
One of the biggest issues is trust. How did you work on building citizens' trust? What helped people trust e-ID, e-healthcare, as you were talking about, or even e-voting? This is a very interesting topic.
Well, one thing that I already mentioned is educating, so that people would understand what those things even mean. What is an EID? This is an important part. But another thing is transparency. So in Estonia, every person is considered the owner of their data, which means that you are very, very involved when information is exchanged. When I talked about X-Road, information exchange is actually logged, and I, as a citizen, I can just log into the state portal and see logs of companies and institutions that have had a look at my data and with what authority. So being transparent about those things is very important to build the trust.
And what about e-marriages and e-divorces?
Those are some of the recent services that we made digital. And maybe I have to explain. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't get together at all. It means that all of the paperwork that is related to those processes is made digital. With e-marriage, with e-divorce, it means that all of the paperwork can be done online in the state portal. Some processes are automated as well. So when I fill out the document that with marrying, I will take my partner's last name, automatically the police will make a new ID card for me. I don't have to separately apply for this. But at some cases, for example, saying yes to your partner, in those cases you still have to get together.
Ceremony itself.
But most people want to do this anyway, so I would hope that it's not that much of a bother.
Of course, how would you make pictures online just, not so interesting? We have many other questions. How did you persuade older generation to use digital services and digital ID? Are they digital educated? How did you work on this?
That is a great question. The elderly are the biggest group that you need to work with. One thing is having programs for them to educate them, how to send an email, how to attach a photo to a message that you're sending to your granddaughter or grandson, right? But I would say that having a citizen-centric attitude is very important. So I can give you an example from Estonian healthcare. When you digitalize healthcare, of which elderly are one of the biggest consumers, the focus is on training the personnel to do all of the digital things for the patients. So for the elderly, giving a card to a pharmacist instead of a piece of paper with the prescription, it does not require extra training. So taking the pressure off from the consumers and training the personnel is actually the key. They don't have to learn because they don't care. If we're honest, the elderly don't care about digital infrastructure.
Our audience is really interested in our topic. We are glad. Was Estonia an over-bureaucratized country like Slovakia? And how did the situation change after its digital transformation?
Of course we were. You can imagine the type of state we inherited from the Soviet Union. It was very bureaucratic. It was also corrupt. But here I would just like to quote one of our presidents. You cannot bribe a computer. So already we see that the corruption level has decreased immensely when going digital. And another thing with paperwork is, as I mentioned with the digital eras, when you digitalize things, the systems start to change the processes. And you can actually erase the bureaucrats and the paperwork from between because the system is doing the work for you. Like tax declaration, the system is filling the declaration form for me. So there is no need to deal with this paperwork.
One practical question. Are all doctors in Estonia required to enter data into systems electronically, or how did you force them to digitize?
Yes, the doctors are the ones that enter information into the systems. Most of the times when I visit the hospital, from the moment I walk out of the hospital, I can already go to my health portal and see what the doctor wrote about me with this appointment. It took some time. I would say in 2008 we released the first version of the portal, and it was maybe 5 years or so to train the personnel to actually adopt those systems. But once you reach that, then nobody wants to go back because it's so much more efficient. And you can imagine how it helped us during COVID times.
Of course. Well, one more question, very special one. With the most recent generation of e-ID chip, did you implement post-quantum cryptography? If not, what is the roadmap or any precautions measures?
That is a great question. That is a very technical question. And unfortunately, I'm not an expert enough in quantum, so I would prefer not to answer it, not to spread misinformation.
Well, anyway, your answers were very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing your Estonian experience and wish you all the best. Johanna-Kadri Kuusk, thank you very much.
Thank you.